I'm talking to John Knorr, CEO and founder of SIS Business Systems. John, we've spoken before about the benefits of Uglii to governments and the economic benefits. What is it that Uglii's actually trying to achieve?
Joe, if we look at the aims of Uglii, they're fairly broad, I suppose. Let me preface my remarks by saying that in my assessment of things around the world, we've got some problems. I don't think there's any government that fairly claims to be doing a really great job.
Or problem-free.
Or problem-free.
Right.
Most governments have got problems with their economies or how their government operations are run. And what we're providing is some tools to help governments do things just that little better.
So they'll be able to perform better?
Yeah. Part of helping business perform better is helping government to run better, and certainly helping where they interface and interact, and one becomes dependent on the other.
So how can Uglii do that, John?
Well, Joe, the first things that we're doing are providing infrastructure for government information and business information to be searchable and easily discoverable online or through mobile phones for every business and for every person that wants to access that information wherever they may be. Our system's got a whole lot of advantages in that we're a spatial system, and we also have the ability to define very accurately the products or services that we're talking about. So,
government products and services.
Including government products and services.
Right.
Okay. Yep. So, on that base, we can expand our services out to governments to make governments perform better and look better, and feel better about themselves,
right.
And be compared too. So, in a lot of ways, we're putting pressure on governments to perform better, as well as providing the infrastructure for them to perform better. Now, that may sort of sound a little bit arrogant, I suppose, but if we're to help provide an improvement in a lot of business, then we need governments to perform better. That's a general rule of thumb, right around the world. And there's a need for that, and it's not just a business need, but it's also a humanitarian need. We've got the situation where we've got about 7 billion people on the planet now, and another billion coming within another 8 years, and a similar number, another billion coming 8 years after that. And at the present time, we've got about 1 billion people who are often or occasionally hungry in the world. A lot of people have got insufficient education, poor housing, no or little sanitation, no running water. There's a whole lot of things that we should be fairly ashamed about across this wonderful planet of ours.
Right.
So the only way that they're going to be redressed is clearly if we can up the performance of business and up the performance of government, so that both work together in some way to redress those situations and cater for the new arrivals. So that's what we're concerned about at the highest level, but of course to do that you've got to get down to the micro as well as the macro.
Sure.
So to answer your question about how we're helping governments, firstly we need to make the discoverability of government services better and clearer, and we've got lots of tools in Uglii that are going to help governments do that better.
You've got some services that are specifically for governments, haven't you?
Yeah, there's a number of services that are specifically for governments. Some of them are about showing filtered views of an economy. So if a government wants to promote a particular industry in its economy, then one of the smartest ways of doing that is to show what infrastructure and what support and other businesses are in the economy to support that industry.
Yes.
One I often quote is the food processing industry. And the food processing industry requires infrastructure that is not only running water, but it requires things like skills in the economy, services in the economy, such as stainless steel manufacturing processes and refrigeration processes and a whole lot of things like that, and transport, etc., for it to be viable in an economy. So if a government can show that, or even a local government can show that that information about the area,
That they
its
can
area,
provide that infrastructure.
yeah, then
for
it
any
becomes
industry.
very obvious that,
Sure.
that a business has got a good chance of being successful in that economy because the infrastructure's there. And I just don't mean government infrastructure or physical infrastructure, just all of those support services that
Yeah.
industry needs.
Yeah.
So it's information like that and processes like that, being able to demonstrate that infrastructure on a map effectively, that makes our systems very powerful.
Right. Yeah.
So that's just one example of what we can do for governments. We can also have processes that allow governments to credential businesses for whatever reason. It might be that a government wants to do that for internal administration purposes or management purposes. It also may want to credential businesses for other purposes to show the compliance, the level of compliance in its economy with environmental regulations, for example.
Energy use.
Or energy use, or whatever it may be in the economy. So we've got lots and lots of tools for those activities that governments need to be showing off about their economy if they're to attract investment and trade.
John, is it difficult for them to operate within the system? Is it a simple thing?
It's very easy. Government departments need to log into the system, to register in the system, just like a business does, and then they can buy the services that they need in the system. The beauty of our services are that they're affordable because our systems are highly automated, which basically means that we can charge very low fees for businesses and for governments, and there's no excuse for not using them.
And so how would governments go about finding out more about the services that are relevant to them?
Once they've registered in the system provides them with those services that are relevant to them, because when they go into the system, they register in the system as governments, and the system automatically says, well, I know this is a government person. These are the sorts of systems that governments need. Okay, so It's not artificial intelligence, but It's simply an association that we know what this organisation is. And we can also tell by the way government functionality or a government service and products are searched in the system, how much they're using the system, and that's a hint to the system to put forward services to those government departments.
Right, so the government registers for free and then can be offered information and other services that would be appropriate for it.
Yeah. Joe, there are services that are totally free for governments and for every business. A government, once it's registered, can register and locate on our mapping systems every place of business or where they provide services from across their economy, and that's free. So they can create what we call ugly dots on our mapping system and make those discoverable. So because it's free, governments really don't have any excuse for not using that facility and making their services discoverable and reachable by people needing their services. So that's the first thing. The second part of the free services that are really exciting is that a government can come into what we call our marketplace systems and make requests for offers for products and services that they require to buy, that they want to buy. Now, the power of that system is that they're really being exposed to all the potential suppliers in the economy or in the global economy that want to supply them. So what they're creating is a much more powerful, competitive environment for them to do their shopping, really, on a bigger scale. So that's important because not only will it reduce their input costs for governments, but it also reduces things like corruption because those processes are very transparent and they're auditable. So if somebody who's buying on behalf of the government's not using our processes, that should pull up a question mark by the auditors. Why aren't you using these free services of Uglii? Because they will ensure that you get the best prices for the products or services that the government's buying.
Sure.
Okay, so there's two benefits. There's a cost-saving benefit there, and there's also a corruption-reducing benefit for government. It's the same for private business and businesses generally as well. But in the case of governments, of course, they're always more, corruption is more of an issue in governments than it appears to be in businesses.
I'm glad you said that and not me.
Yeah, that's right. Joe, so there's those two really powerful free benefits that are there for all governments. So governments really don't have any excuse for not using those processes when they're free and they're powerful, and they'll provide savings. So they're very powerful for governments. Okay. The other thing that's important is that in our systems we have the facility for governments to post all of the rules and regulations that relate to products and services in the economy. Now, our taxonomy has about 700,000 definitions of products and services, so that sounds like a fairly daunting task. But the facility is there that allows a government or government department to go in there and post up the rules and regulations that relate to, say, the purchase or the use of, or the importation of, or the export of, or whatever it may be, of a product and service in their economy. Now, the benefit of that is that business have got one place where they can go to find all of that information.
Right, yes.
And that's regardless of the jurisdiction of the information. So it could be in the United States, for example, you've got federal government information and state government information. Same with Australia and Canada and China and all of those places. So that ability to see it all packaged together with all the information that I need as a business is very powerful and very important. Mm-hmm. Because our system is so specific, we can talk right down to a product by product or service by service level.
Right.
So there's no ambiguity about that information.
Right.
It's also free for governments to post that information in there. So once again, they've got no excuse. You know, it makes their economy look better. It also has other benefits because there's a hell of a lot of information in every economy, or old legislation and old rules and regulations that get posted up and legislated but never get pulled down because they're out of date.
Yes.
Okay, so this is a bit of an exercise to allow regulators and governments to just see what the impositions are on the provisions of products and services in their economy.
Right.
Now, so it's a checklist really as well, so
yes.
It's a very powerful thing.
Sure.
But the other point about this is that our systems, because of their nature, allow a user that might be looking at the impositions placed by governments on a particular product or service can click from country to country and go into the same position in our taxonomy and see the same rules for another country.
Right.
So if they're comparing Canada and the United States and Mexico,
yes.
because they're wanting to make an investment decision about providing a product or service in, say, North America,
yep.
then they can see the differences quite clearly in how they're going to be treated by governments in those economies.
Sure.
So that's putting pressure on governments to look after business better and to make things work in a more streamlined way, of course. Yep. So in a way we're putting them into competition with each other. It also allows, in the case of countries that have got multiple states, once again to show the regulations as they're imposed within each state in each economy.
Right.
So we think that the benefits of having that information available to businesses and investors and exporters and importers is really quite profound.
It's invaluable.
It's invaluable, and it will help people make all of the decisions that they need in an economy. And of course, if you've got efficient processes for making decisions, then the whole economy goes faster, and it turns money around quicker and uses money quicker, so everybody prospers. So what we're trying to do is create the infrastructure for just that much more efficient government operations to help governments become more efficient and look better as well. So it's not just, we're not just imposing these things on governments. They can become more efficient. They can be more efficient. They can act more transparently. They can overcome their problems with corruption and all of those things that plague a lot of
yes.
governments around the world.
Yep.
So,
and do a lot of that for free.
All of those services are free.
Yep.
So we're really there to help governments. In some ways we're sort of being a little bit arrogant about bringing them into government, into countries, but we're getting I would say 100% positive response from governments. Where we're talking to governments, they are happy about those things. They see them as a step forward for their economy because that's what they are.
Yes.
So we're probably not expecting so much resistance from governments as we
Right.
expected before, because we've had 100% buy-in rate from governments that we've been working with around the world. And yeah, it's very reassuring that our timing's about right too.
Right,
Yeah.
okay. Well, thanks very much for talking to us today, John.
Thanks, Joe. Pleasure.